We are back, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Black Belt Tips. Today on the podcast, we have UFC 2 veteran Sean Doughterty and sponsored Jiu-Jitsu athlete Emil Fischer. We'll see you in a minute. All right, guys, welcome back. I am Bill Jones, head instructor, top-level martial arts, black belt under Pedro Sauer, here with you today to talk about jiu-jitsu. Man, I messed that up, Ed.
No
guys,
worries.
with me, as always, my friend, my co-host, my pal, slightly above novice in all things, Mr. Edward Whitney. How you doing, Ed?
Doing great. Happy to be here. Super excited for today's podcast.
Yeah, I know. It's awesome. At some point, it might reconnect. We are trying to do it live on Black Belt Tips, Facebook, Black Belt Tips. But with us today, two guests, awesome guys, great jiu-jitsu people. We have Emil Fischer. How you doing?
I'm fantabulous.
Good. So, Emil, tell me if I'm wrong, but you are a contributing writer, and journalist for Jiu-Jitsu Times. Is that right?
That is one of the outlets for which I write.
Okay, great. Who else do you write for?
I've written for and occasionally write for Jiu-Jitsu Magazine.
Okay.
I've written for and have done some work with BJJ Super Deals. I've done a guest post on several different blogs out there on the interwebs.
BJJ Eastern Europe, they take everything.
You know, they reached out to me. Because I already write for Jiu-Jitsu Times, it's one of those things. Like, I have a friendly relationship with Gile, but I feel like it'd be weird for me to write for them and write for Jiu-Jitsu Times. It's like
Write for Breakpoint.
I'm gonna write for Breakpoint. That's what I'm gonna do.
All right, guys, and the voice that you just heard is a guest of honor with us, UFC 2 veteran. That's right, I said 2. UFC 2 veteran Sean Doughterty. How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I can't complain.
I can honestly say I've never been as excited for a guest as I was when I found out you were coming on.
Thanks,
No
man.
offense, Emil.
It's okay.
Yeah, so this is kind of how it
I'm
happened,
only
right?
excited when I run with them.
Let's go.
So for anybody wondering, yeah, man, why all the guests? Why didn't you bring the kitchen sink too? What happened was I kind of put out feelers and said, hey, is anybody, just on the Facebook, right? I just said, hey, is anybody interested in being a guest on the podcast? We'll talk to anybody. And Emil was one of the people who contacted me and said, hey, that sounds fun. And Ed was like, yeah, I want to debate one of his articles.
Yeah, and then I actually read the article.
No, we'll get to that. And then, Emil's like, hey, can you mind if I bring my buddy Sean with me? He's he's been a UFC guy and stuff. So, and I was like, yeah, sure, whatever, And I start looking it up. And so here's the thing with UFC. I am a recovering traditional martial artist, right? So back in the day with UFC, I really didn't pay enough attention to it, unlike guys like yourself. I just assumed that everybody on it sucked, and that's why they were getting submitted by everybody. And I hope you can back me up on this a little bit, that's just kind of what traditional martial artists thought back then. That's what we thought.
Yeah. I mean, it was just right down the street from here is where I started off with kickboxing and taekwondo. And and a little bit of Aikido and things like that. And here it was, 1993, November 11th-ish or something like that. The first UFC was on. And I'm sitting there watching this thing, and I'm like, the first thing I was doing was drinking a Zima with a couple of my buddies.
Zima. Back in the day, man.
Yeah, and then,
That was the stuff.
Wait, can we go back and talk about Zima more?
Yeah, we're coming back to that, Emil. Don't worry.
We're watching this, and I'm like, holy shit, how is it's okay to cuss on this?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that I was like, how are these guys losing so fast? If that was me, I just would have sidestepped it, and I would have done this, and no way that dude would have taken me down, blah blah blah, in the first place. And next thing I say to my friends is, I'm going to be in the next one. Watch, I just knew it, kind of thing. And one thing led to another. We won't get into that story right now, but I got in the UFC. I was going to do that sidestep. I was getting ready to fight a grappler, and then jiu-jitsu guy. It was the first fight of the night.
Let's get back to that in a second. Let's leave him hanging on that thread. You're about to fight a fucking ninja.
Yeah.
His fighting style was listed as ninjutsu.
Yeah, and it's even better when you get to say you lost to a ninja.
I know, right? So for anybody who doesn't know, I love that that's live right there. That look that Emil just gave you.
I can't help myself.
So for anybody who doesn't know, like the last post I put, or one of the posts I put on Black Belt Tips at Facebook was I forget what the hell it was. Something about ninja names or something. It says ninjutsu's fake, but this is a fun game, and it was some stupid game that you do. But I mean, not stupid. Engage with it, guys. It's really important. Share that. Ninjutsu as an art is kind of made up. Like if you look at the history of it, it's kind of made up. But
Yeah.
I'm not saying it, like what they're doing is bad. There's a lot of grappling, a lot of striking. The stuff they're doing might be perfectly valid, but like it's kind of made up. Like they said, well, yeah, this is what the ninja did, and that's kind of how it went. And they can't really trace it back.
Yeah,
on the
it's kind of like the Knights of Ren.
Yeah.
They're trying to hold on to a dead thing. Darth is dead.
Yeah,
Darth
let
is
him
dead.
go.
Quit trying to, the ninjas
But-
are dead. You can, and all the techniques that they use are actually like an Aikijitsu and even Jiu-Jitsu.
Well, and now I mean, like you look at some
aside
of them
from-
from like the Bujinkan or whatever, and like
Oh,
it's like,
yeah.
oh, that is straight up like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu move right there.
Yeah.
Or maybe they got it from judo more than likely, but it's like, okay, just call it what it is. You're doing MMA. It's fine. You're allowed to say that. Anyway.
Yeah.
So you get the call up, right? So you told me this kind of came up last minute, right? Like you like knew that you wanted to be in the UFC.
Yeah.
But someone got hurt or something. And...
Yeah, well, I was on the card to be an alternate, and I got a call from Art Davey saying, like 2 weeks prior to the fight, and he let me know that Ken Shamrock just broke his hand. Vernon kicked him, and he blocked funny, and he got a spiral fracture in his hand. So he was out of the tournament, so they called me and asked me if I wanted to go ahead and take his place and be on the actual card.
Nice.
Instead of as an alternative. And I ended up being the very first fight of the night. It was Big John McCarthy's first match, first time he ever said, let's get it on.
That's awesome.
That's great.
And like I was telling you earlier, I was like, we were the first fight of the night. I was thinking we were going to feel each other out. We're going to take this slow. No. He literally comes sprinting. Forrest Gump sprinting straight towards
Forrest
me.
Gump sprinting.
And, I throw like a left, a right, a tight kick, like a leg kick, elbow, and then he wraps me up in a head and arm, does a sacrifice roll. I pull his legs over on top of me where he's in full mount, head and arm.
Good move.
And I remember being told, in my briefing before the fight, if you're done, tap 3 times. I'm like, okay, what do I need to do here? I can't get out. So this is where I learned grabbing the love handles does not work to escape. Dragging your knuckles into the rib cages doesn't. So George Dillman, you're full of shit.
Nice.
The pressure points don't work. So
You heard it here first. George Dillman, full of shit. If you don't believe me, come down to Top Level Martial Arts, Cuyahoga Falls, and prove that it works.
Yeah.
right.
I learned firsthand that stuff doesn't work. And all my traditional training, I didn't even get to do it. I got up after I was choked. I didn't go unconscious. I got the 3 taps in on time. But I get up, I'm like, I'm full energy. I've never lost a fight before with this much energy. Like, what the hell just happened? I'm robbed. I'm like, what the hell? And Ken pulled me down. Like, I came out of the ring, he called me over, and I sat with him for the rest of the night. And he goes, look,
Ken Shamrock, right?
Yeah. And he was like, look, dude, you have got to compose yourself, even in loss. Be a professional. Yeah, he was always telling me about being professional. I had dinner with him a couple nights before. He asked me to come train with him because he saw me train while I was there. But me and Jason DeLucia were picked up there by Ken to go join the Lions then in California. So he had me sit with him, and he just gave me, that was my first lesson, of how to deal with loss, because that was technically my first loss.
That's
my first loss in my
That's an
career was
amazing
in the
story
UFC.
in and of itself, right? Because that's the stuff you don't hear, right? When you talk about Ken Shamrock, you talk about the way he fought. I mean, he was ferocious. He was a badass. I mean, I would argue, like, when you talk about old school UFC, the 2 names that come up first are Royce Gracie and Ken Shamrock.
Yes.
Like, would
That's
you
it.
agree? I mean,
Then Dan Severn and Oleg Taktarov.
yeah, shortly. I mean, they're in
The
like
second Oleg reference
the
I've
top
heard today.
5. The top
That's
5,
amazing.
right? I mean,
Well, no, there was like
relevant.
that was a clash. It was, that was a feud.
Yeah.
Almost.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
to the point where I had to take on hatred towards the Gracies.
nice.
Like when I went and moved in with him, I was now Team Shamrock.
Yeah.
That's great.
I was now Lions Den, and my enemies were the Gracies. So it took years. I mean, ask Emil, even just meeting him last year, I was still kind of anti-BJJ for a while. You know what I mean? I was just kind of anything but BJJ, and I'm going to show you I can still compete with you and things like that. It doesn't matter, that kind of thing. And to me, a punch is a punch and a kick is a kick, so a choke is a choke, and
I
Yeah.
agree.
Arm bars and
100%.
I agree
arm
with
whether
you
you
on
learn
that,
from
yeah.
Sambo or from Gracie's or from Valley Tudo or from catch wrestling or however you learn it, it's all the same thing.
I like
Yeah.
to refer to it as all just grappling. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, I'm not a jiu-jitsu guy, although I'm a jiu-jitsu student under Pablo Castro, and I learned some of these dark leg lock arts from catch wrestler Sean Doughterty. But
Yeah.
the reality is I'm a grappler.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all, and the way I look at it is it's all human movement, right? Nobody has the brand on human movement.
Right, exactly.
And so
Kinesiology,
call it
yeah.
whatever you want. Is what I say. Let jiu-jitsu is a Japanese word. Catch wrestling is more the American term for the exact same damn thing, right? You know what?
British.
Okay, British. We'll go with it. We
came
stole
from
it.
the British.
We stole
It's all
everything
there.
from them. We speak American. But and that's actually one of the things that the guy we're under, Pedro Sauer, like he's big on that. Like he is not in a feud with anybody, and it's funny because like I've had people call and say, hey, you know what, I'm Gracie Baja. Is it okay if I visit? Is it okay if I wear my the gi with my patches on it? I'm like, I don't give a shit what you do. Come visit, have fun. Why do I care?
That was one of the things that kind of even kept me aloof from BJJ for so long, was that part of the culture. Yeah. This almost.
It's cultish.
Yeah, and it's like,
Yeah,
it's
that's
like
the word
crap.
That's the word that he uses for it.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
And it's like, I got a body. I gotta get permission to go to play with my other friends at this other school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it's like, my goodness, dude, how big does your ego have to be to not let everyone play together?
God, I love that you said that because, like, when we're in an art and like, what's the motto of the art? No ego, right? Leave your ego at the door. How many times have you heard that? And I would say jujitsu, in a lot of ways, has some of the biggest ego out there, and it's led us down the wrong path. And it's the reason why a lot of traditional martial arts hate jujitsu. I mean, hate it.
Yeah, it's
and they
fun.
won't buy into it. They won't listen to anything you tell them because of stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to be like, oh, I'll beat your ass in a street fight. It's like, why don't you just be nice about it? And I don't know. So
You got
Actually,
something to say,
that's
Ed?
one of the words I actually used to describe some of the comments when I was reading the Facebook comments on your article was culty. I'm like, I didn't realize jiu-jitsu guys were so culty.
Oh yeah.
Like
I love flicking at that.
Yeah, it kind of caught me off guard because I'll be honest with you, we don't really have that here.
yeah,
No, you
Yeah.
guys
No.
have a pretty good culture here.
Yeah,
Your gym.
it caught me off guard.
we
I was like,
strive
wait,
for that
what?
culture. Like for example, and for anybody watching, like you were here rolling, right? And you were like, and you were like, Bill, can we roll? And I was like, hell yeah.
Yes.
Like especially because like you've been training since 1999. I started in 2004. You got some time on me. You know what I mean? And like. Especially no-gi, and I've never rolled no-gi
Yeah.
before, and I was like, oh, I want to feel this. I knew I was going to lose. I didn't give a shit.
No,
like I don't care about losing in front of anybody. I don't care about like I said, I forget who was talking, and they were like, oh man, and I was like, if I don't roll people that can beat me, what's the point? Like,
I think that
Yeah,
I've
no,
never
exactly.
been here and you haven't been willing to roll with me, and like I've come here a few times. There was one time that you were
I was injured
You were,
the last time you were
yeah,
there.
you were nursing an injury, and you were like, "Oh man, I'm so sorry." I'm like, "Dude, you've never once turned me down." So like,
Yeah.
there's one time you're injured.
yeah. So I love to
down all
roll.
the time.
I love to
Yeah, you
train.
do.
But no, and that was like there's those things that turned me off to it. But now is the time for me. It's just like I get exhausted. Fighting other people. Like I've become
Yeah.
like a pacifist, man.
Yeah, man.
I just want to love everybody and chill with everybody.
Exactly.
And teach everybody. I kid you not. Competition is the furthest thing from me. I
Yeah.
don't care.
That's kind of how I am too.
Yeah.
But this guy.
So as you say, we got guys like Emil to pick up that slack.
Yeah, good for him. I'm glad he exists.
He's a walking, talking competition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He competes with. He'll argue with himself for Christ's sake.
In my articles, some of my articles, I like go full circle.
Yeah,
It's like,
that's awesome.
well, I think this. No, I think this.
Like, wait,
You're like,
that's
wait,
not
I
what
need
you
to
said
edit
at the
this.
beginning.
I don't. I just put it up unedited.
Good.
That's awesome.
I'm just thankful that Kit lets me.
That's awesome.
That's what makes them enjoyable, though.
yeah.
I feel like you're being honest.
So we'll circle back to that, but I think it's a good segue into the reason we initially invited Emil on was because you wrote an article, and what was the title?
Sport for street's sake.
Sport for street's sake. And so, Ed, in reading the title, you thought what?
I thought exactly as the title described, but in all honesty, it wasn't even. It wasn't even the article.
language.
It was the Facebook comments, and I'm like, "Oh, this guy's crazy." And then when I actually read the article, I'm like, oh, this makes perfect sense. He knows exactly what he's talking about. So that's why I was like, thank God Sean's coming, so we actually have something to talk about. But yeah, it was actually pretty good. The main thing that I took away from it was the pressure of competition.
Oh, yeah.
Preparing you for these situations.
And that's the central nervous system thing.
Yeah.
Part of that whole central nervous system. I was talking about.
Yeah,
right?
punching, getting punched.
And I couldn't agree with that more.
Just
you know what I mean?
And the nerves, living in the fight or flight.
Yep.
Yep.
You know,
So I mean, and even though there probably won't be much of a debate,
Yeah, that's fine. We have a conversation. How about that?
I always think the wrong argument is this whole self-defense versus street argument. Like, I think it's just the wrong argument.
Okay.
Because I think the argument should be positionally dominant, solid jiu-jitsu or grappling versus things where you're in weird positions and stuff for a fight. You know, and I've said many times,
situational.
And I hate to say Barambola, but that's the example that always comes up, right?
Okay.
Like this rolling moving, or even let's even argue an Eminari roll.
Yeah,
right?
there's
like,
things you don't do on the street that you can do in competition.
Yeah,
Whenever I do seminars, there's things I'm like, look, this thing that I'm doing right now is good for competition, not for street, and this is why.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I'll say vice versa, and then I'll show concepts that are good on street and good in
Universal.
competition. That are universal, and that's where I try to train myself now as a martial artist. You know, I try to know everything to be able to teach everything because everybody needs to learn everything.
Yeah.
You know, like to meet your syllabus or things like that. But as far as my own fashioning of who I am as a martial artist, I tend to just what am I trying to say here?
like you have your own jiu-jitsu or your own grappling style.
trying to give it your own flavor?
Yeah. Well, no, not my own flavor, but how I do things. Like I try to make things that are just universal.
That
like,
makes sense.
So if I'm going to compete or
Yeah,
be on the street or whatever, I don't have time.
that
to
makes
think
sense.
about
Like there's a lot of
toggling
people
between
who
That was actually my
prefer.
question I was going to ask you.
There's a lot of people who prefer, and I would argue it's a very good way to go about things. They prefer like techniques, whether they're wearing a gi or not. They prefer like the no gi variation of a technique because then they're not dependent on a piece of cloth or whatever.
But I'm not a competitor though. Now, if
Yeah.
I'm a competitor, I can't compete like that.
Yeah,
always. So-
because then you do get caught up in it.
But do you have admirations to do MMA, or are you just strictly jiu-jitsu competitor?
I'm too old for MMA.
Oh, are you? How old are you?
32.
Oh,
And
good for you, man.
and circling back to what I always say, like my main thing is do what you want, but if you're going to say that you're doing that, this is good for self-defense, just have an answer for when I say, well, what if I try to hit you here? And if the answer is, look, I'm in the middle of an Eminari roll, you try to hit me, you're just going to fall down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're not going to be able to punch
Ryan
me
Hall
while I'm
made it
spinning.
work.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
know.
and if it's on concrete, I'm not even worried about hitting you because you just took off all the skin on
Yeah.
the back.
yeah.
maybe.
If you're not wearing clothing.
Even if
Maybe.
Even in t-shirt.
My point is-
it's gonna be
T-shirt,
rough.
sure, but if I'm
My
wearing my
point is,
jacket,
even though
I'll
that's
do
not
it.
It's like a
concrete
geek top.
my point is, even though that's not my specific attempt, I think that you get Rafa Mendes out there doing whatever he wants against some untrained guy.
He's gonna kill him.
He's going to do whatever he
yeah.
wants. He's going to dance
So-
all over their face.
So there's a couple of responses, I guess. So I did an interview with Sean Patrick Flannery from the Boondock Saints a few months ago. He's
Nice.
also a pretty well respected black belt. And one of the things that he said in the interview that just blew my mind was that when he was training under a pure self-defense system, he was not drilling anything where he was devoting all 4 of his limbs to tying up a single limb, or 3 of his limbs to tying up a single limb. So things like De La Hiva, where you would get punched in the face, were not a thing for him, and that put him at a competitive disadvantage, or put his guys at a competitive disadvantage when they went out to competition, because the other guys were using multiple limbs against one limb,
Yeah.
whereas the system that they had focused on was more along the lines of nullifying limbs in order to get to a superior position,
Right.
where that doesn't necessarily help you in competition.
Right, but then in the street it keeps somebody from punching you,
Right.
stabbing you.
Right, and I would argue that's
But here's
kind of how I
here's the thing. If most people who compete are not competitors.
I agree.
That's fair. Yeah.
Most people who compete go out like once or twice a year. They compete once or twice a year. They don't have any real craving for it. They're just doing it to test themselves. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying that you need to be a competitor to do jiu-jitsu or anything like that, or to deserve anything. You know, it's not like that.
No, but you do need to be athlete.
Yeah, but to compete, or to be a competitor, you need to compete often, and you need to have that stress inoculation to be able to go out there and put it on the line and not really worry about it. Not
Yeah,
really
you know,
get
and actually, the very last podcast, I said something similar. I was like, you know, like when I competed against Darren Branch once, and like he used the boundary against me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he even told me, I was like, why'd you do that move there? And he's like, oh, because I knew the boundary was there. So if you did this to get out of it, they'd just stand us up. And I was like, never even occurred to me, because I'm like that. I'll compete maybe once or twice a year. It's fun. I like to the adrenaline dump of it, and like knowing how to deal with that, and which is what you're talking about, like with the central nervous system, and then.
But when you compete once or twice a year, you don't learn how to deal with it. Like, you're going to have the same thing the next time. The goal of the competitor is to have that effect be diminished. Mm-hmm. And so you take somebody like Rafa Mendes or like Keenan Cornelius or like one of the Meow brothers who like that Berimbolo that you deride so much.
I don't deride it. I use it as the example.
Right.
I use it as an example of someone.
I guarantee that those guys are not going to do that in a street fight.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either.
See,
and here's the thing, and they wouldn't need to, because they're going to be so much calmer than the other guy, and the other guy's movements are going to be so much slower and sloppier in comparison to theirs, even if they don't know how to strike. And the other big thing for me is that the striking that you see in Jiu-Jitsu, as it's taught in Jiu-Jitsu, for the most part, doesn't really compare to like striking.
They're not knockout punches.
Right.
They're
they're punches with the intention of closing distance.
Mm-hmm.
You know what they are? It's like putting an elbow in an
Right,
eye
exactly.
socket.
Exactly.
You know, and putting your chin in somebody's face. You know?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So if
designed to create
So
movement.
this question's actually for both of you, if you don't mind. So let's say hypothetically you're a person who has no intentions of competing. Do you think it's beneficial to learn these, quote, competition design techniques? Like, so if you're a person that's never going to go to a competition.
Why are you doing jiu-jitsu if you're not going to go to competition? That's the first question.
Just to be able to defend yourself.
So you're focusing on defending yourself. Why do you need to defend yourself?
Just that hypothetical situation that could occur in anybody's life.
So get a gun.
Well, this is the empty hand combat.
Well, and arguably,
gun as
like,
our
I don't
primary
ever like
option.
that as an answer, because a gun can be taken away from you.
That's what police officers say when they don't want to train and end up prematurely
Yeah.
shooting
It's a sloppy answer.
I agree.
It's a sloppy answer. But ultimately, if I want to defend myself, I'm not going to learn any single art, because
I agree.
there's a good chance that if you're getting attacked, you're not getting attacked by somebody who's unarmed.
To get the same effect of what we're talking about, this how I look at this, and how me and my coach, we refer to this as a self-defense athlete.
Okay.
Okay, we coined this name. We've never heard it before. We're calling
I
it
have not
self-defense
ever heard
athlete.
either.
Your normal self-defense people versus your sport guys.
Mm-hmm.
The self-defense guys are always the guys that kind of like, you actually if you have your sport guys training at the same time as your commercial self-defense guys, usually lose business. Because the guys are so, rugged and this and that. And now, Strong Style has done a really good job of it. They integrated, the professional fighters and all that kind of stuff, and the normal people. They created a culture there that really makes it work. But in a lot of other instances, the rule is you want to keep your fighters away from your students.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you train a self-defense person to gain all those same beneficial attributes as a competitor that will benefit them out in the street? Well, one, you hold standards. They have to train hard. They could have muscular structure, right? So on and so forth. You give them good techniques. You give them, you train them in competition form in a way in the dojo. You have in-house competition. You have in-house contests.
Yeah.
There's something on the line and you got to push it. It's all in the way you train. It's not self-defense or competition. It's how you train. You know what I mean? And the way I see it with self-defense is you can be a self-defense athlete.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Where you're running miles. You're doing all the same things that a fighter is doing. I mean, not to the same extent of overtraining and injury and things like that. But you have to check off all the same things that you need to be able to do to step in the ring are the same things you need to do to be able to step in the street.
So here's a question, I guess, in response to that. Do you believe that the stress inoculation from in-house competition is the same as going up against a stranger who doesn't care if they hurt you?
It's between individual and individual. You're talking about psychology here. You're talking about
say,
how
like,
people have already train their mind. You might be speaking from your paradigm, your point of view of reality. But I've been around so many different people. For me, for example, before a competition, I sleep. I'm like, wake me up half hour before it's time just so I can do some jumping jacks and get ready and go. Mm-hmm. I don't even get scared. When I first started doing it, I was that guy that was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to get hurt, and I don't want to hurt them. Popeye. Come save me.
You've been in, like, fights, like, in the streets. So I've met people that when that situation starts, they shit their pants. Mm-hmm. And then there's other people who the fight starts and they're just comfortable to begin with.
I would say that the first example that you gave is more common.
Okay.
Just from what I've seen.
Yeah, I tend
and
to
psychology would agree with you most of the
Yeah.
time. Like there's actually a TV show called Brain Games. I don't know if you ever saw it.
Yep.
One of the things they were
Netflix.
covering was fight or flight response.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of basically they just had like this person dressed up as like a statue, and you couldn't tell, and then like people were taking pictures near it, and then the guy would just like jump out and go and then most people were like whoa and like backed off and stuff.
And then every 20
and like every once in a while there was one guy whose dukes came up and he was ready to throw down, and but that was by far the minority. You have to train yourself to be like that. I agree. But I would disagree with what Ed said.
What's that?
That most people train jiu-jitsu for self-defense. I don't think they do. Most people, and keep in mind,
I think it's more for ego. I think it's like
I think a lot of people.
I think it's like a craft beer and the beard and the yoga and the veganism and whatever else gluten free jiu-jitsu. It's almost an accessory for your neo.
Without a question.
I agree. I think that the
hippie
self-defense
punk
techniques and the art, and this is the same reason most people will train karate or taekwondo or whatever. They use it as a tool for stress relief, for fun, and for socialization. And they just happen to like the fact that it can also be used for self-defense.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
The vast majority of adults do not come in here saying, I'm worried I'm going to get in a street fight, man. I don't know what I'm going to do. Some dude keeps walking. Like, that's not reality.
Yeah.
That's what you said. Like, who's this imaginary fight with, right? Like, most of the time, most well-adjusted human beings don't get into fights. We walk away, like you said. Like after being in so many fights, you're just like, I just want to be happy around everybody.
Well, let's take me for example on that level. Me, 14 years old, walking into the martial arts school because I got tired of being bullied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now kids are.
I didn't know it
different.
would land me right here.
Yeah.
But no, even adults don't want to be bullied.
Yeah.
There's a point
Most
where
adults
it doesn't
are not,
happen.
though.
The confidence it gives, I would disagree with that.
Not physically.
Physically, you're right. But
Not physically.
it's
Not
a
a
very
situation where I
different
can be
type.
like,
But
you know,
still,
Most kids aren't physically.
You still got the
bullied either.
metaphysical and the alchemical version, the things that takes place in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or any martial art is that which you can control in the physical also transmutes into the mental, the psychological. So if you can control your body, then you can begin to control your mind.
Yep.
It all ebbs and flows like that. It all comes together.
And actually, here's a funny story. But one of the kids that you rolled today, younger guy, scar on his head. Mm-hmm. He actually he started because he got in a fight. Like some kids pinned him down on the bus and beat the hell out of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it wasn't just a fight. It was
an assault.
Yeah, he got beaten up.
And then about a week ago, so he started here. He's only been training for like 3 months, but
3 or 4 months. Yeah.
Yeah, a week ago, somebody tried to fight him. He hip tossed him and ended the fight.
Nice.
So good for him. And I mean, he's not an exceptionally aggressive kid. You would
No,
never,
he seemed like he wasn't
was
really
actually
sure.
hesitant, if anything, but probably because he didn't know you or whatever.
But even if nobody starts it for the fact of self-defense, the self-defense will come because of the change in confidence that that has. You know why I'm not afraid? You know why I'm not trying to pick fights with people? Because I'm chill with myself.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know what I can do. I know who I am, and I have no fear. Therefore, I am not going to react and those guys who like try to start fights and shit. Those guys are afraid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have zero
They got
fear.
the
When
problem
I
is
walk
with
down
them.
any street, I have zero fucking fear. I'm not saying I'm a badass. I'm just saying I don't have fear anymore.
I got you.
And it has everything to do with me walking into the club at age 14 and starting my martial arts career. Not
fantastic.
religion, not God, not any other human being. It's been martial arts.
And I don't think that it necessarily matters which martial art it is. I mean,
I agree.
Your ability to address situations is obviously going to depend on how well trained you are, but your ability to mentally cope with those situations or the potential of those situations arising is going to be amplified substantially by just simply training. And so like I trained martial arts for a long time, and it's like,
Yeah.
you know,
And getting back to the original conversation, I feel that someone who competes on a regular basis, you, Keenan, all these, or Bill Wallace, you know what I mean? Whatever martial art it is, they're fighting at the highest levels and then doing it on a regular basis, certainly will have a better ability to cope with those emotions that come along with, holy crap, someone's trying to murder me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think they will be able to do it better. But I think anybody who trains on a regular basis, and not just going through the motions. If they're just coming in and going through the motions, that's a little different. But most people in jiu-jitsu, you can't get away with just going through the motions. You got to figure it out at some point.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the whole you can get to blue belt without rolling thing. You know what I mean? Like,
And
it doesn't happen with me.
Well, let's go back a little bit though. What is the difference between competition and self-defense? What are we looking at? Are we looking at multiple attacker scenarios?
Yeah, or even what kind of competition?
Because to even argue it, you would actually have to break this down and go point by point in arguments.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the argument is centered around actually what you were talking about earlier. That there's techniques that are good for competition, and then there's techniques that are good for the street.
Right.
And my biggest fear is we always hear the term muscle memory. Your body just does it. Is to develop these.
You train how you're going to compete or.
Yeah,
fight.
so if I start developing all these, quote, competition design techniques, and then I'm in this panic situation, am I going to do these things? Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you're going to do the same exact things that you train for, but even like the changes between the techniques that are for sport and for self-defense, it's not much.
Yeah.
It's really not much. What it is just getting the student to realize when and when not to use a certain.
Like I don't see a person who usually uses lasso guard, let's say in competition, getting in a fight, falling on their back, and then like reaching for your arm, going, "Oh my God, there's no gi. What do I do now?" Like they're just going to go to a grip that works. You know what I mean? And and the other thing is, and we've addressed this so many times, like. To anybody in this room right now, for sure, and I would argue to any decently trained blue belt, a person who doesn't know jiu-jitsu, and especially like doesn't know how to fight at all, when they start grappling with you, they feel like an infant.
Oh, yeah.
Like they are. You don't have to use lasso guard. You got to use lasso guard on a guy who's good at passing the guard.
Yeah.
You got to use Eminari rolls on a guy you need to trick. Like you don't need to do that to a dude who doesn't know what he's gonna like try to punch you. You're gonna move. You're gonna put him in a head and arm choke. He's gonna fall down. End of story.
Yeah, I rolled the other day. I don't wrestle. I do not wrestle.
Okay.
I will not wrestle with opponents. I just see no point to it. If the guy's a wrestler, especially I won't wrestle.
Okay.
The other day I was rolling with somebody that was brand spanking new, had never grappled before, had grappled very little, had maybe some wrestling experience. I hit a standing head and arm choke on him.
Nice.
I hit a hip toss to side control and then finish from there.
Yeah.
The point is that
There was no need for the leg locks.
here's the thing. There's a hierarchy of things that I'm going to do to the other person.
Yes.
And that hierarchy, the whole point of competition jiu-jitsu is to beat another jiu-jitsu competitor.
It's a game.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
And so the development of the skills necessary to beat those people starts with fundamentals. You're not going to see a high-level competitor with crappy fundamentals.
That makes perfect sense. See, I guess, like I said.
Yeah. If you can do this, then you can. If
I've said this before.
If it beats the really big guy, it'll beat the little.
I've never met.
Just because if a technique beats a little person doesn't mean it's going to beat the big guy.
Yeah.
Jason Gotzi.
Well, you know what?
A good
I'm
friend
going to
of
have to
mine.
disagree with you there. Because there are some techniques that work better against big guys than little guys.
You're going too technical.
Sorry.
I'm getting to the point of taking an elephant gun squirrel hunting as well.
Sorry. Okay.
It's just the philosophy of because people say like oh look what I can do this. If I do this, yeah, it'll work on a 7-year-old. Yeah, but it'll at least work on that 7-year-old. Well, if this other technique works on on a guy this big, it'll also work on your 7-year-old. So let's just forget about because that's the argument.
Yeah.
Why do you learn that bullshit?
Yeah.
Well, it'll work on somebody. Well, you find that person, bring him here, show me. I'm gonna slap him around for being such a.
I love it.
Self-defense to sport modifications, for example, judo. In judo, if I do a forward throw, like seonage or ippon seonage, the one, 2-on-1
Yeah,
arm,
yeah.
and back end, and do your throw.
Yep.
In sport, you want to kind of get in the air. And
You kinda jump with it and roll.
You're rotating
yeah.
and you're landing all your body on top of him onto the mat.
To get your epon.
Yeah. Now in street, you don't want to do that.
No.
Because elbows and
Yeah.
things can hit the concrete. I might miss him and not land on him. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the throw and I'm just going to stay standing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he goes down
Posture up.
and I'm posturing up and I'm looking for the guys around,
looking for
any
his
friends
buddies.
coming. And
Yeah.
I got him secured in that arm bar already. If I have to, I'm going to quick pop it.
Yep.
Go.
Square up with the next dude.
Right? See, that's all that changes.
Yeah.
Now, I would say if everybody can be competitors, be a competitor. But if you're not, train like one.
Okay.
If you're not going to go out and have matches, have in-house matches. But I would say go have matches anyways, especially if you don't want to. That's the main reason why you should go do it. If
Yeah.
you don't want to go compete, that's why you should.
One of my colleagues wrote
For
about
anybody
that.
who's watching at home, this is UFC 2 veteran Sean Doughterty. So give him a thumbs up, give him a like, give him one of those little hearts. He loves hearts. Give him a little heart. All right.
do it.
What is that? Those are gang signs, man. I don't know what we're doing.
gang
It's
sign,
a
man.
heart, but still.
You just
I don't-
flipped off the internet. Oh man.
Hi everybody.
And look, we went from 4 people watching live to 3. Dang it. You alienated somebody.
Oh no. We broke it.
Going back, is all that ninjutsu talk, the buchi.
Oh,
So, I think we beat this subject to death. We talk about it all the time. I have a question for you. So when you were making that walk,
you being Sean,
Yes.
for anybody who doesn't know.
okay. So as you were making that walk to the cage for the first time, what was going through your head? You step out of the doorway there.
You see a ninja.
There's a ninja.
Well, the
wait-
funny thing is, I was in a hotel room outside of the area, the
the
building
arena.
we're in. So I was waiting. That was my waiting area. So I got called in. I walked from across the street,
Oh, are you serious?
into the building.
And this was UFC 2. They're lucky they even had a building.
Was there art? Was the music like somebody falling with a boombox? Did you rock that music?
No, this is just a call.
Was Kathy Long still calling?
It wasn't like they announced me and I walk out of the hotel. I mean, I had to walk from the hotel across there, and then it was like stalled for a second. We have like everyone hoist got to have his own room, kind of thing.
So like, what kind of emotions were you feeling? Like, what were you thinking in your brain? Like, do you remember any of the thoughts you were having?
Honest to goodness, I had my instructor hypnotize me. Honest to God, like beforehand, because I have generalized anxiety disorder. I always
Okay,
have, because
yeah.
like I told you before, with like on my way to the ring in my kickboxing days, I was literally almost in tears because I did not want to fight. Literally, I was competing just to test myself.
I believe
I
you.
wasn't competing because I loved competition. I fucking hated it.
I got you.
I hated hurting somebody else. I hated the feelings I had of, and if my, with my ego and everything, if I lose, how do I tell everybody? How do I hang, I hated it.
Yeah.
But I did it because I'm a stoic and I want to have the benefit of being able to protect myself. So I did competition to help me protect myself on the street. Little
Sport
segue
for
back
street's
there.
sake.
That's awesome.
So,
I got to do it.
Like I said, once I read the
but-
article, I was like, that's.
but
pretty
I
good.
was literally almost numb. It was the first time in my actual life that it was just more like I'm observing the situation.
So you were soaking it in. You're looking
Yeah,
around.
there
at
was
the
zero
people.
emotion, zero emotion. It was all drowned out somehow. And I just, like I said, I just remember, okay, we're the first fight of the night. He's gonna chill. I'm gonna chill. We're gonna feel each other out. I mean, that's the kind of shit I was thinking.
It's not how ninjas are, man. Ninjas are not chill. Ninjas come, they go straight for the assassination.
It was
So
crazy.
Another little trivia fact. I don't know if we mentioned this on the podcast or not, but it was Big John's first fight too, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you and Big John welcomed in UFC 2 together.
Yep.
That's pretty amazing.
Also
Yeah.
the first Ohioan and the youngest person at the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think as far as my extensive research can tell, which equals 2 Google searches, he's Ohio's first MMA fighter.
Yep.
As far as I can tell,
That's amazing.
that's incredible.
This town.
Yeah,
Right here.
Yeah.
It's Cuyahoga Falls,
Cuyahoga
Ohio.
Falls. Beautiful
Matter of fact,
downtown
I
Cuyahoga
took
Falls.
pictures for the UFC, like for some promotional shots for the UFC down there on Front Street.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Wearing my Century.
Did
gi
you have the
pants,
Action Flex pant? Oh,
my,
no,
my
just
black
the-
belt, and
I was hoping you had
I
the Chuck Norris Action Flex
no,
jeans.
but I had the Vanilla Ice haircut thing.
Nice.
I had the flat top, at the time.
Dude, I didn't
That's
think you
hot.
could get any cooler, and then you laid that on us.
It was in the wintertime too, dude.
Oh, man.
Bare chested in the winter.
So you look shredded. You were all
Nipples
tight and
raw.
cold. That's what I was gonna say. You looked all
I was
shredded.
169 pounds, dude. I was
Jacked.
so tiny. I was scrawny, is what I was.
But I was talking about the Vanilla Ice haircut. That
yeah.
factored you up at least 3
So
points.
after your loss, you went, you sat with Ken, right? Mm-hmm. And did you watch the rest of the fights? Did you watch it and say, "Holy shit, there's something to this"?
Yeah, yeah.
Because Hoist went on to win that one as well.
Yeah, that was after losing, it was just like, what do I do from here? And that's and Ken,
like did Ken tell you what was going on? Was he like, hey, so this is the grappling that you need to learn this? Like,
no, it was just simply he saw me training. He was looking for fighters to beef up the Lions Den and get that thing going, because they had it was like the club, like in Pancrase, it's clubs versus clubs basically.
Okay.
Like in Japan they have different, like Funaki had his club, Suzuki had his club, Ken had his club in the United States and things like that. So he was recruiting people. But he was always going through people. You pull somebody off the street, you got to get initiated. If you stay, and then how long are you going to stay? Because nobody wanted to do it.
Yeah.
It's brutality, man.
Yeah,
the Lions Den
doesn't sound like a pleasant place to be.
And so he started just recruiting fighters. He's like, okay, you guys don't need to do the initiation because you guys fought in the UFC. So
that's cool.
And he was already looking for ready-made fighters.
Yeah.
For
right.
people that he can.
So how long did you end up training there at the Lions Den?
I was there for 3 months, and I got a neck injury.
Okay.
That was first of many later on down the road. Now my neck is fused. But I had a neck injury. It took a few months to heal up. And so I flew home to Ohio and did that here because I didn't want to, I couldn't train.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there. And he was feeding me, dude. I mean, Ken housed me, fed me, and trained me.
That's amazing.
That's the Ken Shamrock I know. I
Yeah.
mean, if anybody has any questions about Ken, that's how I am. People, some say he's arrogant and things like that. So fucking what? He was cool to me.
Yeah.
And I've seen him be cool to many, many people.
Yeah, that's something I learned in life early. Don't go what
well, and a
people
lot of
say.
times people have to put on a certain persona. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people couldn't see between.
There's entertainment.
Well, like
value to
Shoney
things.
Carter.
Yeah.
You know who Shoney Carter is?
Yeah, he was the first guy who actually got
That
the
dude,
knockout, right?
He did the spinning back.
Oh,
fist,
Matt Serra.
Yeah, Matt Serra. Okay, so he's got the pimp outfit, that thing going on, and he's just always talking weird shit on the thing. But that's his shtick.
Yeah.
That's not him. The Shoney I know, who cornered me and took me under his wing when I fought in Japan and couldn't bring my cornermen or my coaches with me, he's the one for a whole week took me under his wing and trained with me and showed me around, showed me how to get around Japan, things like that. It's amazing. So there's like this, that's not who you are, kind of thing.
So you get this neck injury. You have to leave the Lions Den, come home, get your surgery, you heal up. What next? What happened?
Well, I didn't have surgery at that point. That was just simply, I got rolled in. I mean, there's a lot of personal life story, but let's just say we fast forward a few years. Say I do things for a few years, and then,
life happens for a few years.
Yeah, life happens for a few
you
years. I'm
get
still
back.
kind of training, doing things, but I'm focused on these other things for a while. And then I meet my coach in '97, John Saylor, who's the head coach at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. He
Olympic
took me under
judo?
his wing. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He took me
He
under
was
his
Rousey's-
wing.
or He was Ronda Rousey's parents' coach.
One of them, yeah.
Nice.
Him and Steve Scott, and all they're all like he's friends with every major judo guy kind of thing. Everybody,
Okay.
if you're in judo, you know who John Saylor is.
Okay.
And he lives right here in Ohio.
Okay.
The dude's insane. He's amazing. But he was friends with Louis Simmons, so down at Westside Barbell. So when I joined Shingitai Jiu-Jitsu, I joined basically Westside Barbell as well, their training philosophy and methodology. So I just was encased in just this vast, deep well of knowledge just right here in Ohio.
Yeah.
So since '97 till now, I've been with John on the martial arts side, and I've been studying Louis Simmons on the physical.
That's awesome.
the
He's actually in
physical
the
side.
Westside Barbell book on something with combat or
Yeah, a
something.
couple.
It's amazing.
Couple different books.
So where do you teach at now?
I'm basically a Ronin instructor. I just like I said in the beginning, I just love people, dude. I did this, and I need to give back in a way, and I want to give back to Ohio. I want to give back to the local people, and anywhere I go, I want to teach, and I don't want to be barred from doing that.
Yeah.
I have a 4-stripe. I'm a 4-stripe brown belt and under the Sergio Penha
Okay.
system. Carlos Catania out in New Jersey, Joel Bain and David Elias. Those are all my my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructors.
Black belt in judo, though, right? And
Me?
yeah,
Yeah, I'm a Nidan in judo
Yeah.
and 4th degree black belt in the Shingitai Jiu-Jitsu Association, which is the it's a mixed martial arts, traditional like mixed martial arts. But I just want to be able to like
get you in
I
here.
go everywhere I can and teach. So a lot of times I'll just go to open mats and just go hang out and meet people.
Yeah.
If people have a question, I'll answer it. If they want me to show them something, I'll show them something. It's like it turns out to be like a little mini seminar sometimes.
Yeah.
You know.
How'd you get into the leg lock thing? Like a lot of people in this area, anyway, know you as like the leg lock guy. How did that happen? Is that
Well,
just like
the
stem
heel
from
hook was
training
the
with Ken?
the heel hook was the very first submission Ken taught me
Okay.
and injured me with.
Well, I mean, in UFC 1, Ken won. He won with the heel hook.
Yeah,
He beat Pat Smith.
Yeah.
Yep, sure did.
Yeah.
Nice.
And he was
Good
going
pull.
for a knee bar when Hoist choked him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was contemplating it at the time.
Yeah, he was going to probably roll under for it. I
Yeah, but
assume.
that was the very first time he ever grappled with somebody with a gi on. He was like, "What the hell is this thing?"
Yeah, right.
Next thing you know, and,
That's awesome.
And he was cool about it too, because like, he tapped, and Hoist was like, "The referee said you tapped. Did you tap?" And Ken was like, "Yeah, I tapped. I'm not." And he goes, "You're gonna," because
Yeah.
somebody else, what was his name, George Godot or something. There was some kind of controversy that he didn't.
Yeah.
Tap, said he didn't tap.
It
or
wasn't
whatever.
Remco Pardue, was it? No, it
No,
was.
Remco was a cool guy.
Yeah,
I'm friends with him to this day.
Are you really?
Yeah, he's awesome.
Remco?
that's
yeah,
amazing.
I'm Facebook
We
friends
fought
with him.
in UFC too. We were on the same card.
yeah.
Awesome dude. He's funny as hell. Matter of fact,
He's
when
a
I-
black belt in Jiu-Jitsu now.
We all love
Gracie
him.
Baja.
yeah, he is too.
A lot of those guys went on to learn jiu-jitsu or grappling of some sort because,
Yeah.
like, a lot of them went in not knowing any, got dominated by it, and then were like, okay, what the hell just happened? You know,
Yeah.
like, I need to know. I need to know that if for no other reason, so it never happens again. And then, now they're. I would imagine most of them know it because I mean
yeah.
that's what happened back then. For anybody who was smarter than me, watched it and said, "Oh, there's something to that."
Yeah.
That's how my instructor got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Was he watched it and was like, "Oh, well, this is
Tony?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's like, this is.
I was going to say
interesting."
Pedro didn't get into that way.
No.
Pedro was choking Chuck
Pedro
Norris.
was born into it, sort of. He started when he was 15.
There's more people in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu than there ever was in karate. I mean, like you knew, like people did karate and stuff, but nobody was ever proud about it, really.
Yeah, it's a different thing.
It was back then.
It was too cultish, like.
Oh, yeah,
and,
oh
and
my
I would
God.
argue that in a lot of ways it still is, like.
Yeah.
And not that
No.
we're not. We said it earlier, but
I
like,
have
there's
a
lot
hard
of
time
culty.
being around some traditional martial arts because I've seen people's. I'm talking. You're gonna see some egos. I'm talking about kicking kids across for not saying excuse me before. I mean, just weird. I mean, I'm talking. You want to
So
talk
I got
about
a story about that. Like,
time craziness?
one of the guys, he's an affiliate of mine. He also does another. I won't say because I don't want to give away who it is and everything.
Yeah.
But he does another martial art, and he ended up getting out of the association. Thank goodness. But like they would go and they would refer to each other by their rank. Like they wouldn't even call him by name. It wouldn't be like, "Hey Joe Blow, how you doing?" They would just be like. And they got weird. It's Korean, so they got these weird titles like I think it's Pusambonim or something. Anyway, he's like Pusambonim. Open the door for John Sambonim or whatever his rank was. And like I mean that'd be like me looking at you, Emil, and going
dick.
Purple.
and going purple,
Brown.
open for blue. Like or blue, open for purple, and it'd be like, what are you talking about? Who talks like that? Where is this okay? Because I
I've
guarantee
seen
you,
people in Jiu-Jitsu talk like that.
It's
And
bullshit.
it irks me.
It
The
should
only
irk you
thing I'll
because
call
it's
somebody
dumb.
is professor. And
Yeah,
that's
there's a
just-
difference between having titles and using them,
Well, that's
and then
different,
and then like using that in everyday life and expecting like I have never once seen Pedro Sauer, who most people call professor, like ever like
Tell
one
somebody.
get mad if you call him something else, or two like refer to you as hey blue belt, come here.
Yeah, fair enough.
You know what I mean? Like he would never do that. It would never cross his mind. He's
That's
a good guy.
It's like the military.
Yeah.
Just calling you by your rank, not.
You're not a human.
In the military, it's different, though. You have signed up for a very specific thing, right? You and I are both veterans. We've signed up for a very specific thing, which is to murder human beings, right? I mean,
Right.
in the end, that's what you do. Like,
And you did traditional martial arts too, right?
Yes.
So you remember ready stance or
Oh, yeah, Yoi and
what's it called? Tension stance. Same thing as what are we doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You stand like this,
Yeah,
with
and-
our thumbs down, pointed down. Or,
But the problem
like
with
this.
me
It's-
is,
it
like,
comes from it stems from
that's
the
what
military.
it's from, but like you're not actually in the military. You know,
So
like,
it's Masonic. Dressing up.
We had a conversation.
Yeah,
on it the
it's
other
like
day.
playing dress up. That's a good
playing
point.
dress up and acting like
Playing
that.
make
It's like,
believe.
And that's one of the things that I loved about jiu-jitsu when I first got into it was I had just come off a 1.5-year deployment to Iraq, and like, anyway, that is what it was. It wasn't that terrible, but it was not fun. And I come back and like I meet this jiu-jitsu guy who can not only can he kick my ass, but everybody's like really laid back. And I was like, man, I kind of like this. And I remember the guy who owned the school that I was teaching at, and I had been teaching Aikido jiu-jitsu and karate, being really disappointed that I wanted to take up this jiu-jitsu thing. Because he was like, why do you want to wrestle around on the ground? And it's like, well, there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah.
This actually seems like a really intelligent way to fight, and like they kicked my ass. So, and I was pretty good at karate and stuff. So like,
yeah, to me, it just makes sense.
yeah.
It's like, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah. So Emil, what do you got going on? You got any competitions or anything coming up soon?
Always.
Yeah. What's
I'm
up
gonna
next?
be doing Fuji next Saturday up here in Cleveland.
Oh, is it in Cleveland?
Yeah, it's gonna be in North Olmsted.
Oh, okay.
It's that one. Oh, that's the
Yeah, I was
Columbus.
gonna say that's Westerville, but that's
was a couple weeks
Yeah, I was
ago.
gonna say that one just happened. Now that I think
I
about it.
really I have a lot of admiration for that circuit for what they're doing right now. They're trying to put on tournaments in pretty much every major city, or even not so major cities. And the promoter guy, the guy Tim Worthland, I've seen nothing but good things from him.
Okay.
Like he and J.W. Wright, who run that whole circuit, actually lent mats to Grappling Industries when Grappling Industries got their mats stolen.
That's cool.
And Grappling Industries is like direct competition for them.
Yeah.
Like, that's like that would be like you lending your mats to somebody, like somebody in Akron who has a jiu-jitsu gym.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that, and then I've got some super fights currently in pencil. Like they're not really.
Anything we can talk about?
Well, I mean, one was already announced and then had to be kind of retracted. I had a super fight lined up for next Saturday in Nova Scotia with a gentleman by the name of Nathan Dos Santos, who's a very, very well respected, high level, world class brown belt.
Okay.
Based in Toronto, but that has been moved to sometime in January. So we'll see what happens with that. And then there's another one that was talked about for the spring with the guy that runs Inside BJJ. One of the guys that runs that. I think his name is Tim Freeman. So that would. I don't know.
Do you ever do that? What's that one that we keep seeing now?
Freeman.
Fight to Win. Have you ever done
I did that one in Cleveland.
Yeah, he did it.
Yeah,
in
did you?
Cleveland.
Okay, I didn't go, so I don't know
No,
for sure.
Tim.
Is that his brother?
I think so.
Inside BJJ? Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did Fight to Win Pro in Cleveland. I also did the one in Columbus.
Oh, did you?
The one in Cleveland, I won with a straight arm lock.
Nice.
And then the one in Columbus, I lost by decision.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, those were fun.
Yeah, you actually won that one in Cleveland pretty quick, if I remember correctly. I was ringside for that. I
It was
don't
about
remember
a
all the fights.
minute and 56 seconds.
Yeah, it was
About.
pretty quick.
About.
No, it was,
The fight to win?
yeah, it was.
Duh.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Did you Kimura? Yeah, that was the
It was a
double wrist
Kimura.
lock.
It was a Kimura 2 straight arm lock. What happened was.
Yeah, that's right. I remember it now in my head because for some reason I was thinking you were doing your quick escape from.
Yeah, no. From side control.
Yeah.
No, what happened at that one, he was very aggressive, and I'd actually gone against him a couple of times before, and while I was able to get the win those couple of times, under that rule set, he would have beaten me. But this time he was a lot more aggressive. He comes out.
He read your articles and listened to your fucking mouth.
He came out, he slammed me. And I was like, oh, okay, it's that kind of fight.
Nice.
And so I turned it up a bit, and it went quick.
Good.
I'll tell you what, that always works in his favor. If anybody's super sorry to give
Don't
up
say it.
Don't give away his tricks.
when you're really aggressive with him is when he really shines. It's so funny. It's like because I could just imagine people just wanting to kill him and just being so mad and wanting to kill him and just him laughing in their faces the more malice you put out, the more shenanigan and like loosey-goosey bullshit comes out of him. You know what I mean? And it just pisses you off more and you want to kill him more and it just sucks
So
you
you're
right
the
into
Floyd
his game.
Mayweather of jiu-jitsu. That's what I'm hearing here.
I like to think of myself as more like a fatter, older, worser Jeff Glover.
Okay.
So,
Well, I actually called you that once. Remember, or was it one of our guys said, "Oh, that's that Jeff Glover or the Cleveland Jeff Glover dude or something." I can't remember what it was. And I started
Cleveland
laughing.
Jeff Glover.
that's great.
Yeah, it was Robbie.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can figure.
I can see it.
Yeah.
It's more like a Muppet to me. It's something out of Jim Henson Jiu-Jitsu.
Jim Henson
Jim
Jiu-Jitsu.
Henson Jiu-Jitsu. That's a good name for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this podcast is sponsored by Jim Henson's Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, it's all sorts of little things.
Yeah.
Brewing. We'll see what happens.
So where can people find you, Emil?
Well, my Facebook page is Emil Fischer BJJ. Fischer is spelled with a C, by the way.
Okay. Spelled wrong.
Fischer. EMILFISCHER BJJ.
Okay.
You can also find me on Instagram under the same
Same terms.
handle.
Okay.
And yeah.
That's all right.
it the Jewish way.
Okay.
Where
Actually,
can people
German.
Where can people find you, Sean?
German Jewish.
Deutsch.
Whatever.
Whatever.
If people want
It's
to,
like butter.
where can people find you, Sean?
Um,
They want to get these master this leg lock system.
Facebook, Sean Doughterty, is that what I do?
I think so.
You know more about it than
He
I do.
doesn't know.
I am a
He's
tech
like-
laggard. I just
We
want,
talked about that. He may not be the most technologically savvy guy.
All right.
Not at all, but Instagram, Sean Doughterty, Sean Doughterty.
Okay.
Yeah, just
Awesome.
Google me.
Okay.
There you go.
Good luck.
Google him, make fun of him, and be like, "Oh, you got beat by a ninja."
Oh, dude,
and see where it leads you.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm gonna take it all away. Nobody has anything against me because I can say that my fight was long enough just to be a GIF or GIF. Whatever.
Yeah.
GIF.
It's
We'll go with
like,
GIF.
It's like 18, 20 seconds. I got beat by a ninja, dude. Who can
That's
say that?
awesome.
Yeah.
And then you had the opportunity to be the king of pancakes.
Yes,
And I-
make fun of me. That's all you got. I make fun of myself
Pancakes.
more.
You had the opportunity. You went against some Suzuki motorcycle or something, and had the chance to be the king of pancakes.
That's awesome.
I had no chance of being the king of pancakes. Just fighting Minoru Suzuki was cool enough.
That is pretty awesome.
That is insane.
I've never fought him. He's never beat me. Ed, where can people find us if they want to get a hold of us?
Black Belt Tips on Facebook, blackbelttips.com, and blackbelttips@gmail.com.
Did you get that whole Twitter thing going yet?
I'm working on it.
All right.
I'm still trying to get my tweeting
The
skills
thumbs-
back up. It's
thumbs
been
working?
a while. I took a few years off, but I'm trying to get it back going.
All right, guys. Well, listen, I really appreciate having you guys on the podcast. I
Yeah,
really
man, this
appreciate
was
you
Thanks
being
for
here.
having us. It was fun.
Super fun. We'll have to do it again. I enjoy it. We like just sitting around talking jiu-jitsu and just talking
Yeah.
trash in general. It's fun. Anybody who's tuning in, thanks for watching. I don't know if you could hear us from over there. Looks like we got a comment. Whoever it is, thank you for commenting. I appreciate it. And I'll read it later and we'll respond. But anyway, guys, that's it. We're out. Take it easy, everyone.
Sayonara.